Mika usually makes about 6 of these 10 shots. Today, she makes 2. Her coach stops practice and corrects her firmly. The following morning, Mika makes 6. It looks like the correction worked. Later, Mika makes 9. Her coach praises her. The next morning, 6 again. Now praise looks harmful. But the same return cannot prove two opposite lessons. Lay out more of Mika's scores, and a different story appears. Most sit around 5, 6, or 7. 2 and 9 are possible, but unusual. Each set reflects repeatable skill plus unstable details, such as a slightly early release. Her legs can be tired. The ball can catch the rim differently. Several temporary factors can lean the same way on one morning. To get 2 when 6 is ordinary, that morning probably contained more bad luck and temporary difficulty than usual. Those temporary factors do not have to return tomorrow. A less extreme next score without a skill change is regression to the mean. That makes the next ordinary score unsurprising. Patterns do not command the next shot, because Mika could score 1 or 2 or 10. Any single next result can still surprise us. But after an unusually low result, something closer to her usual range is generally more likely. The same logic works after an unusually high result. Notice when the coach reaches for her clipboard. Ordinary days pass quietly. The dramatic correction arrives after a terrible score. The memorable praise arrives after an exceptional result. Both interventions are attached to moments that were already unlikely to repeat exactly. Then the next ordinary score creates a clean little story. One sequence says correction followed by improvement. Another says praise followed by decline, even though the coach really observed both changes. The mistake is asking one rebound to identify its cause. The trap begins before the feedback. It begins when the extreme result decides when feedback arrives. Years ago, psychologist Paul Schaffner built a computer simulation around this very problem. 89 undergraduates tried to improve the school arrival times of 2 fourth-grade boys. After each arrival, participants could praise the boy or reprimand him or say nothing. But the next arrival time was not changed by their choice. It was sampled from a fixed random process. After unusually late arrivals, reprimands were naturally followed by more ordinary results. Praise came after unusually early arrivals, and less exceptional times followed naturally. The feedback never entered the generator, yet participants rated praise as effective and reprimands as even more effective. This was an old laboratory simulation, not a verdict on real coaching, parenting, or management. Its lesson is narrower and more useful. A false causal belief can grow from a sequence that feels completely real. Back on the court, the coach is not inventing evidence. Correction and praise each felt causal after 6 makes. Nearby events naturally feel connected even while the cause remains unclear. Here, the coach responds only when the evidence is most misleading. The full score strip was always present. It was simply hidden behind 2 vivid before and after stories. The coach saw a rebound. She did not yet have a fair test of its cause. This is where the idea is often pushed too far. Regression to the mean does not prove that criticism or praise or treatment or training never works. Feedback can genuinely change behavior. A large review of educational feedback found a positive average effect, but also substantial variation across forms and settings. A classic feedback meta-analysis reached the same uncomfortable conclusion in another way. Feedback improved performance on average, while more than 1/3 of the observed effects made performance worse. And in a recent randomized multitasking experiment, informational feedback and a monetary penalty both reduced errors compared with no intervention. That study involved 60 adults in a short simulated aviation task. It does not license harsh treatment on a basketball court. It shows something more important for our logic. Sometimes the intervention really does change the outcome. The statistical warning is not, nothing works. It is, one rebound cannot tell you what worked. The structure appears whenever action begins at an extreme. Someone seeks treatment when symptoms are at their worst. The next measurement improves, and the treatment receives all the credit. Perhaps it helped, but symptoms may also have moved away from an unusually bad day. A company installs a new policy after its worst month. The next month is less terrible, and the policy becomes a success story. Perhaps it worked. But the starting month was selected because it was extreme. After a disastrous week, a person begins a dramatic morning routine. The following week feels more manageable. Perhaps the routine helped, but a 2-week contrast cannot measure how much. Regression is not the automatic explanation in any of these cases. It is the alternative explanation that a clean causal story tends to forget. The coach does not need to stop giving feedback. She needs stronger evidence. First, record several ordinary baselines instead of starting on the worst day. Second, use a fair comparison. Give a technique cue on pre-selected sessions, not only after disaster, and compare with similar sessions without that cue. Third, keep collecting results after the first change. One later result may be ordinary variation. A repeated shift is harder to explain that way, and decide what success means before seeing the result. Is success more made shots or steadier foot placement, or greater self-belief? Choosing the outcome afterward lets almost any sequence tell a flattering story. Use several baselines and a fair comparison plus several later results, and a declared measure. Track more than one result. Now the coach notices that Mika's front foot sometimes drifts across a taped floor mark. Together they choose one precise cue and decide in advance which sessions will use it. They record both foot placement and successful shots, so normal variation does not disappear. Some cued sessions are still disappointing. Some comparison sessions are unexpectedly good. Across many sets, the coach can ask whether the whole range moved. Did the movement become more consistent? And did the difference survive beyond the first day? If it did, the coach can credit more than a convenient sequel. She has a repeated pattern, a plausible mechanism, and a comparison. The original 2 and 9 still matter. They are real performances, with real consequences and real information. They just do not deserve to control the causal story alone. An extreme result is loud. The next result often sounds like an answer. Sometimes the intervention deserves the credit. Sometimes ordinary variation deserves the credit. A convincing rebound still needs to survive a fair comparison. A rebound can be real. It just cannot testify alone.